Hello and welcome to Victorian Studio. My name is Maureen and I wanted to thank you very much for joining me on my very first podcast episode. I'm a fairly new knitter and even newer spinner, but I have been doing other arts and crafts for a while, so even though this podcast will be mostly knitting and spinning, I will also add a few of my other hobbies that I might be involved in. So, a little bit about myself. Um, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, have all my life, and that's just this in the middle of Canada, just north of Minneapolis. So it's cold here, and lots of opportunities to wear my knitwears, which is wonderful. Um, I have been crafting all my life, but I only started knitting last February 2014, when Sarah from Punkin's Patch website, it's a website about her sheep farm. It has wonderful pictures of her lambs and all of her charges and her incredible designs and knitting as well. When she invited me to participate in the Ravel Linux on Ravelry, I decided that was a good opportunity to get back into knitting again. I had done a little bit of knitting quite a few years ago, but never continued on. My parents both taught me a lot about art and crafts. My father is a wonderful artist, and he taught me to draw and paint and sculpt and oil paint. And my mother, she is wonderful at crafts. She is a great knitter, crocheter, makes incredible cross-stitch pieces. And so she taught me those kinds of crafts. So I was very, very lucky to get the opportunity to create in both of those areas, both in fine arts and in crafts. So it's something I've continued to enjoy my whole life. I'm 54. I've been married 35 years. It'll be 35 years this Sunday. I have one daughter, and she has just turned 24, and last week just graduated from computer science at university. We're so very proud of her. And I have a very close relationship with my daughter in that, just like my mother and my father and I both shared these hobbies together, I do the same with my daughter. We learn to knit together, we learn to spin together, we scrapbook together, and we also have a passion for, as you can see, antiques and collectibles. We both love to go antiquing together as well. So we spend a lot of mom-daughter days sharing our loves together. So my studio is called Victorian Studio. It used to be my daughter's bedroom, and when she moved out into her own place, I transformed it into a room that I could create after work. I work full-time at a local hospital. I've been there 35 years, and I take care of computer programs and applications for the Cardiac Sciences program in Winnipeg. And I also design and maintain our program's website. So yes, I'm a geek. I'm in front of the computer all day, and then I come home and I turn on my computer at home, and I'm either working on my website, blog, other computer related things, and loved watching podcasts while I knit or spin. So that's a little bit about my background. As you can see behind me, a lot of the antiques that I stocked this room with were purposely for storing my craft supplies. I try not to have too much in the way of plastics. I like the warmth of wood and metal and old items to store all my craft supplies. So back in when I was about to get married, I was married in 1980. Back in the late 70s, I guess it was the last time I really did a project in knitting, and I'll show it to you now. And being, of course, the 70s, it was a blanket that I made in long strips, and of course it's orange and brown, and with strips of knitting pieces that I just pieced together, and it's a big, huge blanket that I use to this day. It's well worn. Of course, it was acrylic. Back in the 70s, I didn't know any better with good wools and all the different things that you can get nowadays. And also, I only knew how to knit using straight needles. So back when Sarah asked me to join her on the Ravelinics, my daughter and I both decided we wanted to learn how to knit in the round. We wanted to make something that wasn't flat. For the Ravelinics, I'll just get what I decided to make for the Ravelinics. It's flat, but I did make a cabled scarf. So that was my project for the Ravelinics, and I did finish it, so I was able to complete my part and loved it so much that daughter and I decided we wanted to take some beginning knitting lessons and learn how to knit in the round, so using circulars. So we went to our local yarn shop and we took a series of 4 beginner classes, and they told us to choose a project that we wanted to work on. It was just a small class. Everybody's working on their own thing, so it was great. Nobody was holding anybody back. And I chose to make a toy lamb, and it's the fuzzy mitten lamb that's on Ravelry. I'll show a picture of it here. And I was very pleased with how the people at the local yarn shop were able to guide us and instruct us, and from then on we were able to learn how to read charts and read knitting and all of that, and really was a wonderful opportunity to get us more into knitting. So over the summer last year, I started quite a few projects, and of course developed a stash, and was on Ravelry constantly, loving the free patterns, the instructions, the community, and started to increase my needle stash and yarn stash. And then in the fall, Manitoba had its 3rd annual fiber festival close to us. So daughter and I packed up for the day and headed over there, and also took a class on how to spin with a Turkish spindle. So we started that last October, and so I've done a few small spinning projects since then, and really enjoyed spinning with my spindle. Maybe one day I'll get a spinning wheel, but for now, really loving working with fiber and creating my own yarn as well. So I guess to get to the knitting, I graduated from scarves over the summer to trying a few smaller projects like hats and cowls and fingerless gloves. And then I really got into toy making. And of course, one of the most popular toys is from the Bakery Bears, Kay and Dan. So I've made a few of their Bakery Bears. But what I really enjoyed doing is not only making their patterns, but revising them a little bit for my own, with my own modifications. For example, for her wonderful Bakery Bears, it was great to learn how to make a toy, but I love to make it a little bit different so that his arms and legs are movable, and made the faces a little bit different and the ears just a little bit different. So it was a wonderful experience learning how to make toys with her wonderful pattern as well. And then I used Kay's pattern to create other animals for the toy knit-along by Pinhook and Needles last fall. So one of the ones that I made was a lion. So the base of the pattern is the Bakery Bear pattern, and then I just revised it to make a little lion. And I used my own hand spun for this little guy, Corriedale fiber, and used the raw fiber for his mane and his little tail tuft. Again, his legs are movable, his arms are movable, and I created his little paws as well, little toes, and just made little changes to the pattern to create a lion. I also made a little tiger to go with the lion, and this is Raja, my little tiger. So I really, really loved, and still do love, making toys. And now I'll show in another episode, I actually designed one of my own little toys, and really love the challenge of designing and modifying to make something unique. So in my knitting, I've really enjoyed making toys, and I love cable work. If you're interested in seeing some of the projects I've done, I've got them all up on Ravelry, and I will link in the show notes my Rav page and my Instagram page as well. One of the other things that I used to do quite a bit and got away from, and now coming back to again, is sewing as well. I actually sewed my own wedding dress, and it's now on display in my studio on my mannequin. I still have my wedding dress from 1980. It was very simple, just a simple dress with lace. But after that, most of my sewing was for my daughter when she was growing up, with costumes and that kind of thing. So what's been nice about getting back into knitting was also doing a little bit of sewing and making my own project bags. So the first attempt at doing a bag was just a very simple bag. This is the only material that we could find locally that had anything to do with knitting on it. So I just made just a simple bag and little notions pouch to go with it. So that was lots of fun to do. I also have made, I love Doctor Who, so I made a bag out of some material that I got at Spoonflower, and this one has an inside bag, and this material actually I designed myself at Spoonflower. You can make and upload your own designs. They'll print it and then put it on the material that you want. So I created this wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff insert that can be pulled shut on the inside of my bag like this, and it was a lot of fun to create a couple of bags. But of course I'm not a professional bag maker, so one of the pitfalls and rabbit holes that you could easily fall down in, not only in getting a stash and tools and the like that you use in the hobby, it's project bags. And I'll show a few that I've gotten in the last little while, but today I'll just show one from Sweet Denise at the Knitting Den. She created this adorable little sheet bag that she showed on her podcast, and I just fell in love with it and had to quickly run to her Etsy shop, Kikiboo Bags, and I just love this little thing. It's so well made with her little zeeted bumper pull, and I have my current sock project in there. I've knit 3 pairs of socks so far. This is my 3rd pair, and it's taking so long. I joined Danny at Little Bobbins Knits for the Christmas Eve sock cast on. And yes, I did cast on Christmas Eve last year, But then I put it aside and did other projects. So I have so far one of this is my cup of tea socks with just the regular heel flap. And so I've got one done, and I am working on my second one, and I'm at the gusset for the second. So that's what's living in my bag from Denise and Kikiboo Bags. That's one current project that I've got on the needles. The other is some hand spun. That's in my yarn bowl right now. My daughter gave me some fiber for my birthday last fall, and it's the Greenwood Fiber Works American Diner, and it was the same roving that we learned at our class last fall at the Fiber Festival on how to use our Turkish spindles. So she got me, for my birthday afterwards, a whole big braid of it. So I separated it out and two-plied it so that I could barber pull. And these two are just the ends of a kerchief that I'm working on. Is just nice. I just wanted something really rough and rustic. It's soft to touch, but the look is just kind of rustic that will look really great with jeans and a shirt, and be nice for fall time, I think. So this triangular kerchief, once it's blocked, is just very simple, but I just love it for use with the hand spun. I didn't want anything that had a big pattern or anything, so just a nice simple kerchief I think will do the trick. So that's what I'm working on right now. I also have a project on the needles that is an entry for the pinhooking needles, autism awareness cowl, but I'm not going to show it right now because it's only partially done, and I want it to be a bit of a surprise for the wonderful ladies there. So I just love watching their podcast. Talia and Marlisha are so entertaining. I watch them every week. So I think that's just about it for my projects that I'll show this week. When I come back, I will show you a few other historical projects that I've done over the year, and then some new cast-ons that I'm doing. So I hope you enjoyed seeing what I'm doing and seeing where I create and hearing a little bit about me. So I guess that's all I have to share today for the first episode. I hope you'll join me again, where I will show you a few other items that I've made over the past year, my first year of knitting and spinning, and maybe a little bit of my other crafts and other interests. So thank you again for joining me in my studio. I hope you enjoyed your visit, and I hope you'll come back again soon. Bye-bye.